Today, joining me in the studio, we have two guests who are from OutsourcingFit. Now, OutsourcingFit is a company that's involved in outsourcing, obviously, but we'll let them tell us about that. Today, my guests are Armand Aquino and John Hardy. Welcome to the studio, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Wayne.
Thanks, Wayne.
So, OutsourcingFit does outsourcing. How do you explain what it does?
Well, OutsourcingFit, first of all, I would like to let you know that OutsourcingFit is not a BPO. But what we do is we're more of like a matchmaker for clients and BPO providers. So basically, if you are a client and you want or you would want to engage to a BPO, we would try to find, or we would really look into it to see who fits you the most or fits you the best. So we would be we actually using a matchmaking questionnaire that both you and the BPOs would answer. We'd match the answers up, and whoever fits you the best, and that would be the one that we would be recommending to you. So that's what we do, and that's really why we call it OutsourcingFit.
Now, John, you were one of the hosts of the recent tour. Why tours? This doesn't sound like a tourist trip to me. Why do people join tours when they're thinking of outsourcing?
The tour gives you a firsthand experience of what it's actually like in the BPO, and we do take you to a number of BPOs so that you can compare where they excel or their offerings, their seating, locations, and the overall atmosphere or personality of that BPO.
Now, this is a bus trip, right?
No, it's a van, a small van, and we usually can put 7 to 8 people in the van. We limited it so that you're not lost in the crowd. This is a private tour.
Okay, so how does the tour change depending on who's in the van?
The tour changes depending on who's in the van is that the number of BPOs that we're taking you to fit the mold of the people that are attending. So, if there's somebody looking for accounting and there's somebody looking for developers, in that mix that we're going to visit, the BPOs will be incorporated in that. And some of them are multi-mix. Some of the BPOs overlap and they do multiple verticals.
Yeah.
Now, I notice on your webpage, you're talking about this being a cultural visit as well. And given that Armand is Filipino, I guess that makes him a cultural expert on the Philippines.
Wow.
How do you show people Philippines culture?
Well, being a Filipino myself, if you would ask someone from the Philippines or anyone who has experience with Filipino people or working with Filipino people, the first two things that they're going to tell you is that they're hospitable and they're very good at English. And I'm not to brag, but you can hear it from how I speak. And this is one of the things that make Philippines a very good spot for BPOs and for you to get your BPO staff. Now, this is also a cultural tour because, yes, we have experts who can provide you BPO or professional insights about outsourcing, but there's much more to it than that. And that's where the culture is. And culture also penetrates workplace culture. And that's where I come in. I can tell you, or I can tell the people who would be joining the tour what they can expect from Filipino workers. Because you can read everything that you can watch all of the videos about Filipino people, but once you're in the Philippines, you can expect a significant amount of culture shock. Why do they do things this way, and why it actually works? And these are the things that you would be learning from me as your Filipino expert once you visit the Philippines and the VPOs here on an OutsourcingFit tour.
You mentioned your English, Armand, and I agree with you. I think your English is better than mine, and I grew up in Australia. The Philippines is known as the English capital of Asia.
Yeah.
Did you have American parents or foreign parents, or how did you learn English?
I did not have any American parents. My parents are full Filipino. But starting from preschool, we're already learning English. We don't have specific subjects for it, but our parents, for some reason, their generation, started teaching their children English. And that is probably because, just to give you a bit of history, Philippines was once occupied, or I wouldn't say occupied, but Americans went to the Philippines and had a lot of influence, and that influence stayed. And you could say that the Philippines has a lot of American traditions and culture at some point, and English is one of those. So we put a heavy emphasis on English, and that's why the parents of my generation started teaching their children from a very young age how to speak English. All of our subjects in school are being taught in English, and a lot of the television shows are also in English, and that's probably why a Filipino would have the skill to mimic how English is spoken. And if you would hear people, Filipino people, most of their English are more on the American accent or neutral accent, and that's probably the reason why Filipinos have great English.
Now, John, you're a Canadian, but you've lived in Asia since they launched the Ark, I think. How long have you been in Asia?
19 years now.
19 years in Asia. You mentioned earlier that you visited a number of BPOs. How many? If I'm here for a tour, how many BPOs am I going to see?
Normally, we'll try to schedule in between 5 and 7, but 5 is a fairly good mix, gives enough time to sit and digest and not be rushed. We don't want to rush anybody on this. Maybe have a lot of questions, maybe have a few at a BPO. So usually 5 is about the average.
Now, when you were touring BPOs, how do you decide where to go? Which BPOs do you go to?
The BPOs that we go to are ones that have passed our scrutiny test, which means that we usually verify them, that their practices are well within our acceptable ranges.
Now, I notice on your brochure, on the 5-day tour, you're going from Clark in the north of the Philippines to Davao in the south. Why go so far?
The differences are based on availability of employees. There's areas where there's a lot of BPOs, it's hard to get them. So the BPO may be having a little longer time on acquisition. The other BPOs that are farther away, like in Davao, have a better price point. So you're paying for price point on that part of it. And retention-wise, it's a subject. Some people say, well, will they stay? They normally stay at all BPOs if they're treated well. So retention is a big factor.
Now, the tours are not free. Why would a business thinking of outsourcing make the investment in doing a tour rather than just come here and have a look around themselves?
The tours, they come here to do the tour, is a far better display because we've pre-evaluated what are the best BPOs to match what you've indicated on your tour application. So you would put down on your tour application what you were interested in or what you're looking for, and we'll tailor it for that. If not, if you came here, how would you know where to go? I wouldn't have any ratings, no ratings at all. So that's why we do that.
Now, I don't know whether we've mentioned this, but these tours are not just a driver and a bus. Who goes with them?
Usually myself, Wayne, Armand go with the tours because we all have relationships with these people. And we can introduce you and talk about applications or stories that fit the mold for you.
So if people want to know more about this, Armand, what do they do?
Yeah, so if you're listening to this podcast on the webpage you're on, there should be a link below that will lead you to our website. It's outsourcingfit.com/tours. That's where you see the rest of the information that you'd be needing. The tours that we do it every quarter, and we do it on the first week of every last month of every quarter. So I hope that you got that. And the next tour would be on the September 1st this year. So you still have a lot of time for you to join. So if you're interested, click that link, head onto our website, read the details, and if you've decided, there is a form there that you can fill out, and we'll see you on the tour.
So it was a bit complicated. Let me see if I got this right. The tours run quarterly
Quarterly, yes.
in the first week of the last month of each quarter.
Of each quarter, yeah.
Okay. I won't try and figure that out for you, dear listener, but check your calendar. So they're happening quarterly. Mm-hmm. Today, my guests have been Armand Aquino and John Hardy, both consultants from OutsourcingFit.com, and we've been talking about the quarterly tours of the Philippines for outsourcing and for Philippines culture that are conducted every quarter on the first week of the last month of the quarter. Yeah. I think I got that all right.
You'd see the date on the website anyway. So yeah, head on to the website. And again, thank you so much, Wayne, for having us.
A pleasure. John and Armand, thank you for your time today.
Good. We'll see you all there.
All right. See ya.